So this video is about how to be charming, attractive, seductive in order for people to be drawn to you and like you. And obviously I'm not just talking about finding romantic partners and stuff, but when you're charismatic, you get a lot more work opportunities, more friendships, exciting things happen your way if people are just naturally drawn to you. So hi guys, my name is Anna and I am in no way like a life guru or like a trained professional who's qualified to give advice about this kind of thing, but I have accumulated some knowledge and wisdom over the years from my personal experiences, also being around other charismatic people. I've also read many books and listened to podcasts on like philosophy and self-help, so I have a little bit of knowledge, I think. At this point in my life, I find it kind of easy to make new friends and new connections, but I must say that this was really not always the case for me at all, especially when I was younger as a kid. As I was growing into my teenager years, I was so dark, moody, I was very self-defensive, I had so much self-loathing, self-hate within me, and that all projected into how I communicated with other people. But to basically describe my current personality right now, I am outgoing, I am social, I love being around and meeting new people. I am intuitive, which means I have very active imagination. I always think of new possibilities, new ideas. Oh, this is something I could do. This might be cool. So this makes me kind of good for this kind of creative work. Also, I'm a very logical and rational person. I think with my head and with facts and logic rather than going with my feelings. And I am also a very organized planner type. I like to have some structure and set routine to my life rather than just go with the flow and just do whatever life takes me. Also, ENTJs are known to be rather good at flirting, and we usually have very direct and honest communication styles. I'm not scared of telling someone how I feel, and so I find it very hard to just say empty words or just stuff that I don't mean with all of my heart. But honestly, when I think back to my teenager years, I was 100% just a completely different person. I grew up with a very strict Asian tiger mom, and the typical Asian mom stuff compare me to other kids, tell me I'm not good enough, and so I always felt like I was a ball of insecurities. I was always like not doing well, and so I had so much self-hate, self-doubt within me, and this obviously projected onto how I was with other people. I remember one of the report cards after each school term, I got good grades, but then I remember one specific report card I got from my English teacher, I think, and he was like, Anna, she's very intelligent and she does well, but it's just like she comes off as very aloof, and aloof means like cold, distant, unfriendly. I completely understand where he was coming from back then, because I remember at school, if there was like a long stretch of hallway and I would be walking from one direction and I would see someone coming from the other direction, I literally could not make eye contact with them. I didn't even want to say hi to them. I would just like look down on the floor and I just passed without saying anything. Probably they thought like, what is wrong with this girl, you know? But I don't know why I was like that so much back then. But nowadays I'm such an open book. You can throw me in a room with strangers and I will find a way to talk to basically everybody. But it was a long process for me to get to this kind of positive, healthy mindset space that I am right now. There was one point in my life when I was so down. I felt the worst about myself. And this was when I was still like studying in university in London before I came back to Korea. I was going through a breakup over a 4-year relationship. Also, my mom had passed away from cancer and I was not there in Korea when that happened. So I just felt like, okay, the two people that are supposed to love me the most in the world have now disappeared from my life. They're not here anymore. So that was like honestly the lowest of the hardest stuff that I will probably ever go through in life. And so I was having extremely bad anxiety and panic attacks, and that was the point when I religiously started working out and trying to better my life. And I also tried to turn to therapy. This is when I was still in London, but I remember it being super expensive and kind of unattainable at the time. I was a student. So I'm so grateful for BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. So BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service and is 100% online. With BetterHelp, you get access to a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists that can help you with any issue that you might be facing. And it's also a much more affordable option because it's all online, and you are also not just limited to the options around your area where you live. All you need to do to get started is just to fill out a questionnaire and answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional in just as little as a few days. Then you can talk to a therapist in a way that you feel comfortable via message, chat, or video call. Also, it's a bit like dating, finding a romantic partner. If you don't fit with your therapist for whatever reason, because that can happen, BetterHelp lets you switch to a new therapist at no additional cost, which is great. Signing up is super easy to do, and there's a link in the description, betterhelp.com/Annalee. So clicking on that link helps support this channel, but it also gets you a 10% discount off your first month at BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. And now back to the video. So yeah, basically my mom's death completely changed my perspective on life and how I want to live it. I realized that life is honestly way too short to be constantly worried about what other people might think of me. I was one of those girls who were like, "Oh, did I make a mistake? Did I say the wrong thing to that person? Oh my god, that girl hates me. Oh my god, he hates me." I would constantly be thinking this kind of thing, and that kind of thinking made me really want to retreat inside all the time and not want to go out and not want to interact with other people. Now I'm putting myself out onto YouTube and just kind of saying whatever I want. And it was honestly just the switching of my mindset. Like I said, life is too short to be constantly worried about stuff that doesn't matter. I will only worry about the things that I can control, that are within my control. And so I become a lot more YOLO, you only live once. And like whether it's cancer or whether I get hit by a car next week, I don't know what could happen. So I was determined to just live my best life every day to the fullest. Basically, I just stopped giving a fuck about stuff that doesn't matter, and I really started to just focus on me and how I can better my life and do the things that I want to do. And so that has really evolved me into the personality, the ENTJ personality that I am today. So how to be a charming and charismatic person so that you can influence people and win them over. Like I was saying before, I think having charisma and charm is related to how well you can express your emotions to other people. I believe in stuff like karma, and like whatever energy that you give out to people, you're going to receive that back. So for example, when I was in my socially awkward introvert phase, if I were on a date with a guy, let's say, and then I did something embarrassing, like I was talking and then I spat and it like landed on his face, let's say, I would just literally die inside. I would just pretend that it didn't happen when it obviously did happen. We both know it happened, and I would just like kind of avert my eyes and just like try to like shift the topic to something else. But if that situation happened today, I think I would just laugh it off, be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I would just like lean over and just like take it off. I would just try to make a joke out of it. So that's one thing that I think is really important in a charming and charismatic person. Don't be too serious and always try to be lighthearted and playful, because being like that is what gets people to like you. So in that situation that I just mentioned, I froze and I got awkward with it. Then the guy is also going to react in a frozen and awkward way. Then he also freaks out too. But if I'm the first one to just be like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and you know, just make it into a joke, then he's gonna feel comfortable and at ease too. The most charming, charismatic people that I've met in my life, they're friendly, playful, and they're very inviting. That is charisma and that is seductive. And the opposite of that are people who are very closed off, standoffish, cold, not wanting to show their emotions, and just a little bit uptight. Like I said, I was described as aloof in my teenager report card. So that's exactly the kind of person that I was. And that is the opposite of seduction. That is how you're going to repel people and make them not want to be around you. When you see people who are very good at public speaking, for example, there's a big difference between someone like Obama, who is a very good communicator, versus someone like Mark Zuckerberg. If you watch Mark Zuckerberg's interviews, you don't know what's going on behind his eyes. He's like very much like a robot. He has a very high IQ, but he has very low EQ. That's why Obama makes such a more engaging speaker, communicator, compared to Mark Zuckerberg, who will talk to you with a dead face and he's just like la 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 la. And so there are little things that you can do in terms of body language in order to make yourself a little bit more charismatic. For example, I notice as well when I look back on my videos, I use a lot of hand gestures to help with the story that I'm telling. If you're sat at like a presentation or if you're doing a job interview, it's generally better to have your hands showing somewhere, or just sat comfortably in front of you on your lap or something. When you're explaining something, hand gestures really do help communicate your message so much more. Don't just sit there frozen with your hands right by you. That does convey a message of nervousness or awkwardness. I also think your facial expressions have a huge part in how they feel towards you. You have to have genuine smiles. I'm laughing right now. This is a genuine smile, right? So my eyes are smiling, but when people are going like this is not a genuine smile. The person that you're talking to, they can feel that. And also like eyebrow raises, or like when someone's saying them and you go, "Really?" and you like squint your eyes. All of these are like signs that you're genuinely listening to the person that's telling you whatever. And the way you react to people as they're talking to you makes a huge difference in whether they like you or not. So in conversation with anyone, I will always go, "Oh yeah, really? Oh my god, I've done that too," versus like no reaction. You have to give people something. They need to feel the warmth and the energy that you're going to give them so they feel comfortable opening up to you. And also for me, when I first meet people, I usually like to establish some sort of physical touch. This might be also, I lived in London for a long time, and when you first meet someone, you like, "Hi!" You do this, but in Korea that's much less of a thing. But even in Korea, if I get introduced to someone, I'll be like, "Hi, nice to meet you." I will usually try to like shake their hand, because the barrier of physical touch, once it's broken, it does break the barrier with someone. Obviously, It depends on the person. Some people really need their personal space. They don't want to be touched at all. But shaking hand is universal. That's usually considered okay, right? I will be the first one to be like, oh, nice to meet you. And during conversation, I feel out the person. If they're giving off Mark Zuckerberg energy, then I won't touch them at all. But if they're being very responsive and they're being very friendly, then as I'm talking to them, I'll just like give them high fives or like do this, fist bumps, or I would just like touch them on the shoulder just to establish some sort of physical touch connection. I am gonna say appearance does matter. Your looks are gonna be the thing that people see when they first meet you. Obviously, you want to put your best foot forward in whatever situation. Generally, I think people appreciate people that have made the effort to look good, look clean, they don't look dirty, they don't smell. I always just try to think like, if I saw myself and I was the opposite sex, like would I want to date myself? But obviously you have to just work with what you have and just put your best foot forward and try to improve the things that you can improve and just go with that. Looking after your appearance is not only important because of like how people perceive you, but also how you perceive yourself. People who are just confident when they're having a conversation with someone, they are fully focused in on that moment. They are fully focused on what the other person is saying to them. Whereas I've noticed some girls, someone is talking to them, but they're not fully listening because they're so self-conscious. They're constantly going like adjusting their clothes. So they're not fully in the moment, they're not fully listening to the other person. And everyone who's watching them can also feel that they're uncomfortable and self-conscious too. So in order for you to be the most confident and most genuine, authentic self you can be, you need to be secure and confident with how your appearance is before you can have real carefree, concentrated, focused conversations with another person. Also tied with appearance, I guess, is how well you can maintain eye contact with someone. When I was back in my awkward years, I could not maintain eye contact, and this is something I really had to practice and get over. And obviously I don't mean like you have to maintain constant eye contact because that's freaky, like nobody wants that. You can look down, talk to the side, but then you always have to remember to come back and look at the person in the eye and just talk to them. If looking into the eyes is a little bit awkward, I try to imagine like a triangle in the face and just like look in that kind of direction. But this is definitely something that anyone can practice and overcome. When you walk into the room, are you the type of person who will take their time? Your posture should be good, shoulders back. You will glance around the room and actually look into the faces of each person. Before, when I was in my awkward phase, I would kind of scurry into the room and just like keep looking down on the floor, go on my phone and just like really keep to myself. But nowadays I really want to just genuinely see who's in there. And in order to be a good conversationalist and just to be able to talk to people about anything, you definitely need to have some sort of general knowledge about what's going on in the world. This is why they say knowledge is power, and it's really true. You do need to read books, watch informational content, and not just mindless entertainment. And for me, whenever someone's telling me something, I always try to find some common ground, and I will always constantly be asking them questions. Oh, where are you from? So what do you like to do when you're not working? What do you do when you're stressed? How did you feel about that? I will always have these kind of questions in my arsenal, but that comes from a place where I'm like genuinely interested in the person. Having an authentic, genuine curiosity about people will get you to be a better conversationalist. Being charming is ultimately how you made the other person feel. Obviously, I know some people are going to be like, well, if you're good looking, or if you're massively talented, or if you're massively successful, you don't need to be all these things. You can just be talented, successful, rich, whatever, and people will just flock to you. Which, yes, there is some truth in that, but like I said, there are people who are successful, talented, beautiful, but they don't have a high EQ. They're just there, and then they're just very arrogant, and they just expect people to fawn over them. But those people are not the ones who I view as like the most successful. There's also that really famous book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's also a very helpful book. Go read that if you haven't. But all of these books kind of say the same thing. Like, it's about how you made the other person feel when they were with you. So I always try to find something to compliment someone, but you can't be like fake with it. It has to come from a place of like genuineness. I always try to find something nice to say about the person, like, you smell amazing, I love your blah blah blah, you're so funny. Always try to give a compliment, and that'll honestly just warm people up to you so much. But also on the flip side, be gracious in accepting compliments too, because I was the type of person in my awkward phase, I could not accept the compliment at all. Somebody said, oh Anna, you look nice today, I'd be like, what? Like, no. And then afterwards, when I got into my confident self, I would just accept the compliment with grace, be like, oh, thank you so much for saying that. And also another thing that I feel like charismatic people do, they do not let stupid dumb stuff trigger them so much. And this is really the biggest difference in my personality, I think, over the years. For example, back in my teenager years, if somebody said, oh Anna, you're such an attention, I mean, I wasn't because I was so quiet, but if they had said to me, you're so loud, you're such an attention seeker, my god, I would get so offended and so upset and try to convince them or just like lash out and be like, no, you're so wrong, how can you say that to me? But now if somebody said that to me, I'd just be like, yeah, I am. What are you gonna do about it? Just own it. People's opinions of me, it doesn't affect me at all. As long as I know my truth and I know I'm trying to be a good person in life, this is what makes me a good fit to be a YouTuber. Because people writing mean comments, I'm just like, it doesn't, there's like a barrier that I just cannot penetrate because I know myself. You cannot win the approval of everybody. That is simply a fact. You could be the juiciest, most prettiest, tastiest peach in the world, but there's always gonna be someone who doesn't like peaches. So no matter what you do, you just have to accept the fact that people will have an opinion. That's their prerogative. That is their absolute right to have an opinion, but you just can choose to not get bothered by it. And charismatic people, they know how to control their emotions. It's really unattractive when you see people who are like lashing out at a waiter because they got their order wrong, like, oh, how can you do this? Give me another one. It's just so like off-putting when I see people do that. Like huge bursts of emotions in like a public space. That just makes me feel like you don't know how to control your ego, your being. I've said this in previous videos, but really your life is the quality of your thoughts. If you're letting yourself feel angered and upset by outside events, then that becomes your life. So when I wake up every day, try to better myself, try to be helpful to people, try to reach financial stability so I can do a lot more things in my life. That's where my main focus and energy goes on, and not just towards stuff that's outside my control. That's honestly the secret to a happy, confident life. I really think so. Also, I have to say, like, you have to just not be afraid of rejection or failing. And this is not just in relationships, but in all terms of life. It's never a failure, but always a lesson, and you will always learn something from it. And it's only a matter of time until you strike gold. Even if someone rejects me, right, I'm just like, okay, it's not the end of the world. I haven't died. There'll always be other people. Bring on the next one. You know, this kind of thing. There'll be other jobs in the world. There'll be other opportunities in the world. Or you go out and make your own opportunities, which is kind of my mindset. I am the kind of person who will make my own path in life rather than wait for opportunities to come to me. And that's really nice for dating as well. I usually take matters into my own hands and I will just go after what I want. So basically the conclusion is, in order to be a charismatic, charming person, you have to be warm, friendly, and make the other person that you're interacting with feel good about themselves. I'm not saying that introverts don't have a place in the world, but from my personal experience, being more open and vulnerable, I feel like that really gets you more opportunities and more possibilities in life compared to when you're slightly more closed off. But you guys let me know your thoughts down below. Did I miss out anything, or do you have any further tips on how to be charismatic and engaging? Let me know. And yeah, see you in the next video. Bye!